Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be making some gingerbread cookies. I asked my husband a couple weeks ago what baked good just really makes you think about Christmas, and he said that it was his mom's molasses cookie recipe, which is a recipe that I absolutely love. So I kind of took that and tweaked it a little bit to fit what would be a true gingerbread recipe. You may be wondering, okay, so what exactly is the difference between a molasses cookie and a gingerbread cookie anyway? Actually, there's three different types. There's ginger snap, molasses, and gingerbread. So here's the difference. Each of these three cookies actually have the same exact ingredients. They all have flour, butter, sugar, your spices, and an egg or two. But the difference is how you bake them and the quantity of each ingredient. So your molasses cookie and your ginger snap are both going to be just your regular spooned out, rolled cookie dough balls that you place on a pan and stick in the oven. The difference between the two is molasses is going to be your chewier, softer texture, whereas a ginger snap is going to be baked a little bit longer to get that nice crispy cookie where it's almost like a cracker where it snaps when you bite it. Hence the term ginger snap. Now what about gingerbread? Where does that come into play? Your gingerbread and your ginger snaps are going to have about twice as much ginger as your molasses cookies would. So ginger snaps and gingerbread are essentially the same recipe, except gingerbread has a different purpose. So the difference between a ginger snap and gingerbread is really just how you prepare it. The ginger snap is going to be baked longer. Gingerbread is going to be baked not quite as long, and it's going to be pulled out and cut out, and so it's going to create a little bit of a softer cookie. So today I'm literally just going to show you the recipe, and then we're going to stick it in the freezer, and you'll have to come back next week and tune in to see me and my kids decorating these cookies. So this is going to be kind of a two-part tutorial here, just so that the video does not get too long. So hope you guys enjoy this gingerbread cookie recipe.
All right, first we're going to start with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And then to this mixture, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of ground ginger, a tablespoon of ground cinnamon, and then 1/4 a teaspoon of nutmeg, and also 1/4 a teaspoon of cloves. All of these spices are just going to really give an aromatic flavor to these gingerbread. Next, you will need to whisk these dry ingredients all together, and then we're just going to set this aside. All right, so the next step is we'll need 2 sticks of softened butter to put in a separate bowl. Now, if you're like me and you forgot to get your butter out to soften and it's hard as a rock, no worries. You can just grate it up using a cheese grater like I have shown here, and this will bring your butter to room temperature just within a matter of minutes. You do not want to microwave the butter. You want it to naturally come to room temperature on its own, so that's what we've done here. Next, we will add 1 1/3 cups of brown sugar. Now, when you measure brown sugar, just a reminder that it needs to be packed down in the cup. Not many ingredients are meant to be measured like that, but brown sugar is. So 1 1/3 cups of that, and then we are going to just cream both of these together. Once the butter is thoroughly mixed in with that sugar, now we're going to add the rest of our wet ingredients. So we're going to start with 1 egg, and then we will add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then 1/2 cup of molasses. And then we will also add a teaspoon of white vinegar. Now, I know that may sound gross to you in cookies, but trust me, it will taste amazing. So now we're just going to mix all of these up. And when you're done with that, this is the consistency, what it should look like. And then remember that flour and spices that we mixed earlier, we're going to add that into our wet ingredients. So I like to just do about half of it at a time. It's just, I've found that that's easier to work with here. So we're gonna sprinkle in about half, it doesn't have to be exact, and mix this up. And then go ahead and add the last half of the dry ingredients and mix that all up as well. Now the bowl that I was doing this in is a little bit small, and I am doing it by hand. If you were doing this with a mixer, it would probably be just fine, but I'm just going to go in with my hands and kind of finish incorporating all of this here, just because I still have some flour on the bottom that I want to make sure it's all mixed in. So I'm just going to knead the dough here. Again, if you have an electric mixer or a KitchenAid or something like that with a paddle, then it should be just fine. But you'll just want to make sure that there are no dry patches in your dough. Everything is mixed in really nicely. This is what it should look like in the end, a nice moist dough. Now most gingerbread recipes are extremely sticky to work with. This one, however, is not. As you can see my hands, they're really not that bad. I love this. Now there's a couple things you can do with this dough. You can make it up ahead of time before the craziness of Christmas Day comes, and then you can actually freeze it. So what I'm doing here is I've divided the dough in half and then pressed it out into a disc, and then I'm covering it with saran wrap. And the reason I press it into a disc is just so that it can come to room temperature faster instead of it being in a lump. So alternatively, you could also put this in a Ziploc bag and roll it out flat in a gallon Ziploc bag. But I had saran wrap today, so I'm just putting it in a double layer of saran wrap so that it stays nice and fresh. And then when I'm ready to use it, I can pull it out of the freezer and bring it to room temperature and roll out my cookies. On the day that you're ready to make your cookies, you'll just want to bring your dough to room temperature, and then you can roll it out to 1/4 of an inch thickness. So if you mixed up your dough fresh and you want to make cookies that same day, you can roll it straight out. You don't have to chill the dough beforehand. If your dough was frozen, you'll definitely want to bring it to room temperature first so that it can roll out easily, and then you'll just want to cut out your shapes. Any shape will do, but of course with this recipe, you've just got to do a cute little gingerbread man somewhere in there. Now what we're going to do with these cutouts is we're actually going to flash freeze them. This is a trick that I've learned with my sugar cookies, and what this will do is it'll prevent the cookies from spreading during baking and distorting their shape. So we're going to put them in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes until they are frozen hard enough to where you cannot leave an imprint when you press with your finger. They are literally frozen solid, and you'll put that ice cold tray into an oven that's preheated to 350 degrees, and you'll bake them for about 10 to 12 minutes until they are nice and golden brown. Look at these, they just smelled amazing coming out of my oven, and once they are cooled, they will be ready to decorate.
Aren't these adorable? They're so cute. They just came out of my oven and they're nice and warm. I love spicy holiday type things like pumpkin bread, apple cider, basically anything that has cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg, and any of those type of things. I absolutely love it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial about how to make cute little gingerbread men. Stay tuned because next Friday I'll be putting out a video of me decorating these with my kiddos, but don't worry, it is not going to be an amateur version. I'm going to show you how to mix up royal icing and some different design ideas that you can do with these gingerbread men. So in the meantime, you can mix up this dough, roll it out in a disc, and pop it in your freezer. That way you can roll them out the day you're ready to decorate these gingerbread cookies, and they'll be nice and fresh.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on next week's video, where we'll be sharing all kinds of design ideas for these cookies. We'll see you guys later.